Today we're going to tackle the Spirit Halloween Proton Pack wand. We're going to cover the disassembly of it and the modification of it to install a Frankengeek wand-like kit. We're also going to do some cosmetic upgrades to this, mostly a repaint with some decals and some weathering. Depending on what you're going to do with the wand is how much effort you need to put into this. If you're just going to do the basic modification, which would include installing 2 toggle switches here for the Frankengeek Pack Light and Sound Upgrade Kit, one for power, one for the song switch. You still need to do this disassembly, the first few steps, but you won't need to completely disassemble everything, and you won't need to remove any of the original electronics. If you're going to keep the original electronics intact, you need to be extra careful when you're taking this apart, as the wires and solder connections inside are pretty fragile. So the first thing to do to start the disassembly of this is to get the wand loom separated from the wand. There's 2 connection points. One, firstly, there is a tiny staple here that goes all the way through the loom and into the plastic of the handle. Once we get the staple out, there is still a fair amount of hot glue typically underneath that we'll need to very carefully separate in order to disassemble the wand. So we're going to start by removing the staple as gently as we can. I'm going to use a small flathead screwdriver and probably going to need some needle nose pliers to get that out. And there's the staple. It is a mystery to me how they managed to put this staple in without hitting any of the wires. So now that the staple's out, we will try to separate the loom. You can see there's quite a bit of glue on this that it will not come apart very easily. So we'll apply a little bit of persuasion here. You can actually see on this particular wand there is some glue poking through. Try to be careful as you're doing this. Now if you look down in there, you can see the vast amounts of hot glue they have in place that are holding the wires in. This one actually may have the most glue that I've ever seen, and you can see the strain that it's putting on the wires. So you want to be really careful as you're doing this to try not to break those wires if you're going to reuse them. So I'm going to try to break this glue free without damaging the wires. Ultimately, I don't need these wires, so it doesn't really matter, but for illustration purposes, if I can, I'll try to save them. There we go. Now that's been separated. So we also do need to clean out as much of this glue as we can because we're going to be pulling extra wires through this loom. And I do not plan on replacing the loom for this particular pack build. So, since I'm replacing the electronics now, I've got enough of the glue removed to get that wire out. I'm going to clean that out later so I have more room to pull my new wires through. So let's turn our attention now to the wand itself. So if you flip it upside down, you'll see there are a number of screws that we need to remove to open up the bottom of the housing, and then 2 in the handle to completely separate everything. Now you're going to find up here that even with this screw loose, because of this plastic tip, this is going to be a little bit hard to get apart. So you just kind of got to work it apart gently so that you don't break anything. Screw is all the way out. Screws in a bag for safekeeping. And now you can separate the rest of the tip from the bottom part of the housing. Get that last screw out of there. Or not. Okay. So you can see what the original wand electronics look like. There's really not a whole lot going on in here. There's a red and in this case, a gray wire that go to the white LED in the tip. Under here, you can see a couple of red wires and a black wire going to the button on top of the wand. And then the little red LED that goes into the side of the wand is connected here with one of the red and an orange lead. So if you were keeping the original wand electronics intact and you were just going to add the toggle switches from the pack kit, this is as far as you need to go with any of the electronics here. You're just going to go in very carefully, drill these out, and install the toggle switches. You will still have to remove the handle, which we're going to do here just momentarily, to run the wires through the whole thing. So we'll go ahead and do that. Since I'm doing a full electronic kit on this one, I'm going to go ahead and pull out all of the electronics. So the white LED in the tip is actually glued in place. So you're going to need to, in that case, that one came out pretty easily. Just pop that out, make sure there's no glue down here that's going to interfere with installing the new LED. So that looks good. We'll set that aside for now. Go ahead and pop that off. The paper. There's some hot glue holding that LED in place as well. So we'll just try not to wreck anything here. If you can get this out intact, I've seen a lot of people are using the original Spirit electronics to build kid-size packs. Gives a very basic light and sound functionality, which I think is a great idea. There is a screw holding the push button in place, so you're going to remove that. Now underneath that, the button is still hot glued in, so we need to get that loose. You can try and just push it out from the top. It's coming. There we go. There's that. I'll go ahead and remove the screws from the handle. Now I know the design for the handle has changed a little bit over the years. Let's see if there's anything extra in here I don't know about. This handle piece tends to be somewhat fragile sometimes. I've broken a couple, my kids have broken a couple. I see that's a common thing that breaks, is this piece of the handle. So now that's loose, free, and you can remove the last of the wires. So when I do the installation of the wiring kit a little later in this video, I'll show you how to route all the wires back into the handle. Okay, now to get the clipper out, once you remove the screw, you're going to need to get in here with some side snips and snip off this little plastic nub so that the clipper will rock forward and come free. And just like that, clipper is out. So that'll make the repaint quite a bit easier, and this little nub I don't think is going to be missed. So now we've basically got it broken down. We'll go ahead and remove this piece of tubing just pull. Looks like that got some glue on that too. There it goes. Okay, now we're ready to start opening up all of the holes for LEDs and switches and everything in the wand. So we're going to start by drilling out this plastic boss here so that we can install the slow blow. We're going to drill out here, remove this boss so that we can add the hat light, and then we're going to drill holes here for the toggle switches for power and song, and we're going to have to drill some holes here to install the intensify and activate switch. Then the last thing we're going to do is drill a hole up here for the other hat light. Then final and most scary part is opening up the hole here for the bar graph. So we've got a little bit of work ahead of us. Oh, and we're going to open up the vent so that we can install a vent light. So we are going to go ahead and get started with that.